All right, guys. Today we're going to sit down with a good friend of mine. We've got George Gankas in the hot seat, and we're trying to figure out, where does good golf live? How does the golf swing and club fitting correlate with each other? Do our clubs influence our movement, or should we work on our movement before we get clubs? We're going to talk about that today and get it from both mine and George's perspective. If you guys aren't on George Gankas' membership site yet, well, you should be. If you want to save a couple bucks, type in promo code Foreward and get yourself started. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode.
Money, perfect.
All right, guys. Well, welcome to podcast number 3. I'm here with my good friend, George Gankas. George, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, G.
And, the moral of the story here on this podcast is we're trying to figure out where good golf lives. And you, my friend, are one of the people that I know knows where good golf lives. And I just want to take some time and talk about it, get an idea for, how you got started, how you've learned the things you've learned, and, ultimately how we can kind of pave a way to get people better at golf. And I know no one has better insight than you. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, G.
So let's get right to it. So obviously you are one of, if not the best golf instructor that I know, that I believe in. And I just want to get people to understand how you got started. I mean, there's probably a lot of people out there that love golf and maybe want to make golf a little bit more in their career and maybe want to get started into teaching. So how did you get started? When did you decide, I think I could be a golf instructor?
Well, I always liked, the mechanics of the swing. I started early, I started late in golf. So I started at 18 years old. So I had to catch up. I wanted to play junior college golf. I was going to wrestle in college, and I decided to actually play golf instead. And while I was trying to play golf in college, I had to catch up. So I was hitting a lot of balls. I got a job at a golf course where I could hit 500 to 1,000 balls a day, play 36 holes a day. I only had 3 classes at Ventura College. Made their team, then, played there for a year, and then right after that I went the second year, ended up after, junior college, I decided I want to play at, a D1 school. And so I tried out for Cal State Northridge. They had 60 guys trying out for 2 spots, and I made it. And from there, I just, was playing. I played a lot of mini tour events after college. I played a couple nationwide events. And I thought I was playing pretty decent, but, you have to play a lot better than, I was playing in order to, make it a livelihood. But while I was doing it, people were asking me a lot of questions about the golf swing because I was so interested in motion. I was interested in, understanding why Sam Snead did what he did, what Hogan did, what Trevino did, all these, legends. And that really interested me in what was going on. And, I was listening to other coaches like Ledbetter, like Butch Harmon, all these guys, but I was learning more from motion and watching, some of the greats do what they did.
Absolutely. Well, I can remember, you telling me a similar story of having videos that you would get of say Palmer or Snead, and you said you would just focus on one body part and just watch it move over and over and over again and really start to try to formulate these arguments or piece it together.
Yeah, I mean, some people turned their right hip in early, some moved off, then turned it in. Some people were really high with their arms, some were really, more on shoulder line or even lower than shoulder line. Some tucked their arms, some were higher. So the thing is when I would go out and look at all these golf swings, the coolest thing to me is when people say, hey, you should try this or this or this, I've tried it all. There's nothing I haven't seen. Pulling the arms down. People get mad when I say I don't pull my arms down. You can pull your arms down. I did that at first. It's not that it didn't work. It's just that I felt like I was too under and I didn't have enough speed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's some things that work better for me, and some players do like their arms down. So people give a lot of hate on certain things because it doesn't go with their philosophy. But the thing is, I've tried about everything. I've tried stack and tilt. I like a lot of pieces of it. And, I like a lot of, moving off, recentering. I like a lot of stuff. And it's for every player is going to be different. I can't look at everybody and put them in the same piece. I look at a beginner, and if I have them move off and recenter, I could keep them centered and move their body parts differently, and they'll get better contact right away.
Yeah.
That's for a later time for a more advanced player. So
Absolutely.
I look at it from those standpoints of every player I treat different depending on how advanced they are.
And that's the thing. And I think the thing that you have seemingly specialized in is you're able to work with the most advanced players, to work on the most intricate things in the golf swing, to really dial in that player to the nth degree. Not to say that you don't work with beginners, because we know you do well with them too, but like your skill set and the things that you know, and every day when you wake up, there's always something new. You're always looking at some new piece of hip flexion or some crazy thing, and it's like you're looking for these subtleties that if you can get a guy like Johnny Ruiz to tap into, he might play a little bit better golf or be more consistent or what have you. But before we get to advanced, because not everybody gets there, right? You were touching in on some really cool stuff earlier, saying I went and hit 1,000 to 500 balls a day because I had to catch up. Now, when you were in this catch-up process, were you getting a lot of lessons on the regular, or were you just trying to figure it out on your own and just hit balls?
No, I wasn't. I really didn't get many lessons growing up. It was more of I was just copying. I'd be trying to copy Freddie Couples' swing, and I hit it pretty good with Freddie's swing. I tried to copy Trevino. I tried to copy Hogan. I read 5 Fundamentals, and what's funny is that when I first started it messed me up bad, and I came back to it 10 years later, and it helped a lot. So there's a time and place for everything. You know what I mean? And so everybody could say, hey, this doesn't work. But if you're not matching it up with something else, a lot of times it doesn't work. So that one piece could work if you match it up with something else.
Right.
So I think a lot of people give up on a certain piece if they don't understand the whole golf swing, which pertains to them. So,
Correct.
Some people have, really flat swings and they come back over, but their shaft lays down, and I'm cool with that. Some are real vert and they move their hand path back, and I'm cool with that. As long as it's not back in the shaft being steep, I'm cool with that. So there's a lot of things that I think that I would say I'm leaning on if it works. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And if they feel like they can do it over and over and it's consistent. But when it's not optimal for contact, direction, and speed, then we're gonna check some shit out and make sure it's right.
Absolutely. Well, again, the number of tries seems to count. So in the very beginning, when someone's fallen in love with golf, I think of the guy who's turned 30 years old, just started golf during COVID. He used to play football. He's pretty athletic, but now he's picking up this game called golf. And not many people, or most people, come to the realization that it's just the hardest game that there is. You're not going to just pick up this club and be able to do it. You think you're going to, but then you really find out, oh my God, this game's a beast.
I see some of the best athletes, like professional basketball, football, baseball, everything, hockey, and they really struggle with golf just like I did. I think everything was pretty easy for me to play. Everything was very, very easy, and I got to golf and it was very difficult. And I think that they have the same thing, but what they do have is the ability to grind, the ability to work, okay?
Yes.
And those guys who work and grind and hit lots of balls, they'll figure it out.
Absolutely.
And whether they have a coach or not, they're going to figure it out with some funky swing or something. So the guys who are athletic can prevail, but sometimes they take a little longer because they want to do it their way. But some of the ones who, just submit and say, okay, I'll work on this stuff, their athleticism starts to come out. And it takes a while.
So there are long ways to get good at golf, and there may be shorter ways. Now, I think what me and you are trying to do is to create a shorter, more efficient way for the guy who doesn't have to go through the struggles that we went through, trying stuff that doesn't work, doing this, doing that. The problem is there's a lot of obstacles in the way, getting in the way of that. There's going on YouTube and listening to other guidelines or listening to this club manufacturers about what their driver's going to do when maybe it doesn't really apply to you. So there's a lot of booby traps along the way. We're all looking for good golf, but there's a lot of marketing and a lot of stuff that could throw us off along the way. So I always talk about practice is the glue that holds the game together. You can go pay and have George Gankas look at you for 2 weeks straight and get you all dialed in. But if you go sit on the couch for the next 2 months, don't expect the shit to stick.
It doesn't.
And don't come and buy golf clubs and think they're going to be this magic thing if you don't learn how to use them.
Exactly. I think that the practice behind it, I see so many of my students, and it's crazy how many of my students that will hit balls and then have 50 balls left and like, I got to go right after it. And then I got some of my students will sit there and grind. Okay. And there's a certain people that I talk about who I wouldn't say on video, but they have an advantage because their parents are sitting there making sure they practice. Okay, that's a big advantage. Okay,
Absolutely.
And some parents grind them, and those are the kids that get good. The ones that are like, dude, I got homework right after, they got to go. So you got players with talent that usually don't use it because they don't practice hard enough. But some of the guys who aren't as talented become very talented.
Absolutely.
Very good at golf. I also get guys, this is a cool topic. I get guys that are +4s, +5s, and they come in and they have this ball pattern that's just one after another. And I know why they're +4, +5s. They can putt, they can chip, they can hit their driver, but it's not optimal. They're adding loft, but they create a good pattern and they can score. And then I got these kids that I have that have perfect, dynamic loft. They're coming in a great fucking angle, and they're striping it. They're striping it, but 8 out of 10 balls are striped, other 2 right or left. And they couldn't beat that +4, +5 because, repetitive motion and understanding what your ball's doing over and over will create a better score. But there are some people who are optimal on ball striking, but they miss, in different places. But when they hit it good, it's as good as anybody in the world. And so that's a whole nother art in itself. When people see it, they're like, that guy doesn't even hit it that good. I'm like, but he shoots good.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So those are other things to look at too. People are not optimal always. They add some loft, but they get it done.
And that's the thing. I mean, if you're looking to get the most out of your golf game, you got to understand what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then have a coach that helps you guide you on what you need to focus on. I've heard a lot of guys says, man, if I could go back to when I was on tour, I would have focused on staying strong at what I was good at. Like they almost focus too much on their weak link, and they wonder, oh man, I was a great driver. What if I would have been even better and didn't dick around on the chipping green? Because that's where my mind goes. I always want to look at my worst stat. I want to focus on that, focus on that, focus on that. But I've also done it to where I go do better on the golf course at that, but I hit my driver all over the parking lot and I shoot worse.
That was like Ricky Fowler. I mean, Ricky Fowler even said he was one of the better putters on the tour, and then he started struggling on tour with his putting, and he's like, dude, I'm actually hitting it better. I'm not scoring better because I'm not making the putts that I did. So that's a perfect example of someone who put more focus on ball striking because he felt like he needed it.
And this is where a coach really comes into play. And that's something that I don't think you get enough credit for. I think you get tons of credit. Everyone knows you as like a swing technician, but you go way beyond that. I think that the market demands that from you the most. That's why we see you on Instagram mostly doing it. People are coming to say, I want to get in this position. I want to gain speed. But the thing that I've noticed is I think truly your strength is your ability to coach a person, to look at their stats, look at their performance charts and say, well, like Matthew Wolf, for example, I remember when you told me he was in high school and he was shooting around even par in the beginning, and you were looking at his driver stats, and you're like, bro, we're going to go do 30 to 70 and 80 to 120, and you're going to go shoot 65 for the rest of the year, I guarantee it. And you went and showed him that drill that you do, very hard drill to do, right? 25 at 30 to 70, and what is it, 10 feet average on 80 to 120?
You just did 10%. I just told him, I said, listen, the way you're hitting your driver right now, I said, because it was amazing when he was like a sophomore, I said, hey, what would you shoot if you were getting up and down with the wedges right now? How many wedges are you having? He's like, probably 12. I said, what would happen if you're getting up and down 50%? He said, with the par fives, I'd probably be shooting 64.
Yeah.
And he did, as soon as we actually worked on that stuff. So I appreciate you saying that about coaching. People don't really realize that, but I think that people either want to get shallow, they want speed, they want to learn to rotate, they want to get their face in a different position. All the different reasons why people come to me, they want to create a shot pattern. But the fact is that, I have a kid that's 1.5 now. He's going to be lucky because we're going to be on the golf course. A lot less golf swing, way more being on the golf course and telling him what's really important. His golf swing will be easy. I mean, I'll get that on check in 2 seconds. Right. The fact is where's the scoring at? You know what I mean? I don't know how many pros get off my mat and they go, dude, that kid stripes it over there. What's he shoot? I go, bro, he don't know how to play golf. He shoots 80.
No, I know.
He's like, dude, it's a way better than me. I'm like, yeah, he does, but he don't know how to score.
Correct.
So scoring is a different game. You know what I mean? And that comes from, whether it's distance control, like understanding what side of the pins to leave it on, working on, spin control, putting, chipping, 5 feet and in, things that are going to create, learning to get it up and down. I think a lot of those things people don't realize, you can learn to hit it good quick, but doesn't mean you're going to score until you understand what's really important.
Well, we got to move on to the next step of the journey. You got a pattern. Your low point's under control. You're striking it solid. Like, let's get off the mat.
Yeah.
Let's go learn not to cross pins. Let's learn not to short side ourselves. Let's learn to chip with a pitching wedge, land it 3 feet on it, and just make these smart, educated plays. But a lot of people will get stuck. Like, they achieve it, and then they just want to sit there and make it, they fiddle around with almost nothing.
We're trying to just make it look perfect, and then they lose their ball pattern. I think perfection, to me, is straight, 0-0 path face ratios. And I think that that's not perfect. I think that anybody who's 0-0'd out, they don't miss it one way, and it becomes sketchy when you're playing golf on the course and you hit it straight, because a guy who can start up the right side and know it's going left every time or straight can play, or vice versa, left to right. Those are the players that score. You know what I mean? It's not the guy who's hitting it dead on a rope all the time.
Absolutely.
Granted, they said Hogan did it, and Sergio, I watched Sergio, he hits it pretty straight, but he has his tendencies when he's hitting it straight. If there's a tuck left pin, he'll aim a little more right. Tuck right pin, from what I know, he might have changed, but I think he's one of the best ball strikers I've ever seen in person.
Absolutely.
People don't realize that Sergio Garcia is legit.
One of the best ever. One of my favorite players, one of my favorite swings
And
ever.
here, that's a good example. Again, he didn't win a lot, but he's made a lot of dough and been in a lot of contentions. But I think certain parts of the game, his wedges are pretty good. Everything's good in his game. His putter was always pretty decent, but he's always said he struggled at putting because he's got so many opportunities.
Exactly.
He's
The more
got.
opportunities you get.
I don't know how many times I've gone with a kid and said, "Hey, how many putts do you think you'd make if I'd give you 18 putts from 20 feet, different putts, not the same putt?" And I'll make 5, 6, 7. I'm like, "Yeah, you're making more than 4," and I've never seen anybody make more than 4 putts for 18 putts.
Yep.
So you're hitting 18 greens in around 20, 15 feet. You're not shooting low.
No.
You're not going to shoot high either, but you're just not. You got to flag. 5 to 7 shots, whether it's a par 5 or a par 4 or par 3, that's where those are the guys that are scoring, the guys that are flagging it and then cashing in on a couple 20-footers, 30-footers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's not the guys that are hitting it 20 feet all day.
No. So going back to the coaching part, because that's where I think coaching is kind of this middle ground between a swing technician and a club fitter. I'm looking through this mismanagement. That's the lens I'm looking through when it comes to this club fitting thing, because lie angle has effect on face. Weight can have an effect on path. Grip size can have an effect on closure rate. So it's like once we've beat enough balls to create a habit, and then we get cleaned up a little bit and kind of get this shot pattern down, and then you have a golf club just to kind of tip the needle over the haystack to say, hey man, and we're going to eliminate that miss that you see from time to time because we're going to adjust your lie angle to it. Like, those are the small building blocks that I think are really required. And one of the things that I feel like a lot of coaches do is we tend to give the customer too much of what they're asking for. It's like, and again, maybe that's what they want, but I think a lot of people, when they're asking for what they want, they assume it relates that they're going to shoot lower scores. But that always doesn't necessarily the case. Like, for instance, guy could come in here and say, I want to get a driver fitting. Well, who doesn't, right? You could watch him hit his driver and you could say, yeah, I could probably make that more optimal, but it's pretty good. Let me watch you read this putt for me real quick. And if you can't get it within 6 inches of the actual line, maybe we should look at that. Because if you played golf tomorrow, I don't think that driver that we're going to sell you is going to do anything. But if I could show you how to read a green 50% better, I got my money on him. But it's not but they're like, but that's not what I want to do. And you're like, well, that's where good golf lives for you right now.
A lot of people want to perfect things that I'm with that don't need to be perfected. They could get better, of course, but the things like you said, the weaknesses, the scoring clubs, the wedges around the greens, the putting. A lot of people don't even know that's what I do. They have no clue that I can teach putting. They have no clue that I can teach wedges or, distance control with wedges or technique with wedges. And it's to me, I think that's where all the scoring's at. I go to par 3 at Sherwood, and I shoot pretty low there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not trying to be cocky, but I shoot pretty low there. But the fact is when I used to play there a lot, I'd shoot some really low scores. I was shooting low to mid 60s, some high 60s a lot, because I was working from 140 and in out there. Yep. And when I stopped doing it a lot, my scores weren't as good. They were, going back into the 70s. But I think that people don't realize that they can do that on a golf course. They can go to an open hole and practice 30 to 70, 80 to 120, 120 to 140. Take 5 balls out and go 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Get more advanced. One day go 32, 34, 36, 38, or 48, 58,
Absolutely.
60. And you can start, doing different things. You can do it to front pins, middle pins, back pins, start changing clubs, and find out and try and get your proximity on all of them at a 10% rule. Meaning if I have a 50 yarder, try and get it inside 5 feet, 100 yards, 10 feet, you know what I mean? 120, 12 feet. And if it's better, obviously that's awesome. But the point is that I think that people can improve so much if they were way more solid from 140. Now, if you got problems where you're hitting drivers out of bounds, yes, you should really focus on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. But if you're keeping it in play and you're like, dude, it's not down the pipe every time, then it's just your ego being an idiot.
Yeah.
Honestly.
What's interesting is if you break down the physics, if you're swinging the club at a decent speed, a club face 3 degrees too far open is going to hit a ball way offline. At the speed we're swinging and the requirements that we're having to hit to get that ball to do what we do and expect to do it every time it's like a modern day miracle almost every swing we make. Physics isn't giving us a whole lot of wriggle room of success. That's why golf is hard.
It's very hard. You're making it easier with those clubs you gave me.
Well,
I'm being honest. I'm not trying to take any points and try and sell any clubs, but his 4 clubs that he gave me that they're gold, those things are gold. It just makes... I'm hitting it way further, way higher, way more consistent. I had a set of clubs before that I thought were great, and I played good golf with them. And 6 years ago, I was probably playing my best golf. I'm 53, so I was about 47, and I was using these clubs that were about 2 degrees flat, but they'd always hit this consistent draw. And then I started hitting it straighter with these other clubs, and I was missing both ways. And honestly, I haven't played great golf for 5 years. I'm starting to play really good golf for the last 6 months since you gave me those.
Hell yeah.
Honestly. And it's been consistently good. It's consistently par or better. And it's been fun. But the fact is those clubs that you gave me are so much more forgiving. And I don't understand why people want to hit things that are hard because they look better. Other pros are hitting them.
Right.
I just don't get it. I've always wanted to get something that's easy.
Yeah. Well, we should not be trying to make golf harder. Go shoot 65 a couple times with the easy clubs, and then go ahead and make it harder. Let's see if you can even get to that.
Why?
Right?
Why?
Yeah. Why would you?
I never understood that.
Now there is something going on about these particular golf clubs that seems to be performing very well for roughly 14 handicappers and less. I think it has a lot to do with the tungsten weighting that we have at the bottom. We have more mass located directly behind the ball. And it just seems like it just cleaned up people's strikes and they're getting away with a little bit more, let's say, not perfect golf swings and getting a decent result.
I just know that when I look up and I think something hooked and it doesn't hook, it trips me out. Okay. First off, sometimes I think it hooks and I look up and it started right and it's drawing and I'm like, what the fuck? I trip out. And, when I started, it sounds crazy, but I was at Sadakoy on 14 and I had 222 to the hole. Mm. And the front of the green, it was middle. It was 202, 203. Yep. And I was it was a little into the wind. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to hit 5 and I'll just be short and I'll chip it up. I hit this 5-iron when I got yours the first time. And I hit this thing in the air 225 with the 5-iron. And first thing I did, I started hitting 8-irons and I was hitting 8-irons 180, 185. And I was like, Chad, you juiced my clubs or what? And you said you did, and you just put, and they were high too.
Yeah, they're natural
my
loft.
4-iron's always low, 5-iron. What I found now, with my wedge, I've always hit wedge 140, just comfortably full. Now I'm honestly hitting 155, and I don't want to hit a wedge 155. It's not about that.
Right.
It's more about the control. But I'm just swinging stock 150. And the thing is now they're going about 155 because I have a window. They were coming in really high for me.
Right, they go high.
But they were still going far because you put the weights at the bottom.
Yep.
And now I found my flight, but I'm de-lofting it more, and now they're going further, but I'm not trying to hit it further, if that makes sense.
Correct.
But I know that now. So I made a couple mistakes where I've hit it a little long. But the fact is that now I know that I can, swing it a little shorter, 3/4 swing, whatever, half swing. and the distances are great, but it's just the control and the height and the distance and the spin rate is super optimal.
Well, most golfers are looking for a little bit more, at least good golfers are looking for a little bit more height, typically. And I don't think a lot of amateur golfers or beginner golfers realize what a high ball flight really looks like and what the advantage it can have. Typically, a good golfer has the ability to flight the ball when they want to. Lean the shaft more, play it back more, swing a little softer. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do to lower the trajectory of our ball. But when you're hitting a stock shot downwind to a front pin with a little bit of firmness to it, that's a very vulnerable place to be. I mean, if you can't hit it high, you've felt that way before from the fairway. Like, I don't know if I can get this one close.
I mean, we played in wind today and we had that, and it's one of those things where, I don't know, at number 4 to leave us, I had 195, but it was downwind to a front pin.
You need spin right there.
And I was like 85, 75, 80. I was like, I can hit an 8-iron there. And it came in high and it held the green and it was 20 feet.
Tough green to hold.
You know what I mean? So, and it was a front right. So those things can still hold, you know what I mean? And I've never had a club like that. I mean, I play with Matt Wolf all the time and there's no one that hits it higher than him. I can confidently say no one hits it harder or higher consistently that I've seen on any tours. Maybe long drivers, of course.
Right.
But I'm talking about someone on a tour. There's guys that may hit it better, but there's, like I said, golf is different. Some people are better at wedges than him. Some people are better at putting. But the fact is his height is ridiculous, and it's such a freaking advantage. It's crazy. I see him hitting stuff where we're 200 out and he's hitting an 8-iron to a front pin, and I'm like, bro, stop. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not fair.
No, I totally agree. I just thought of an idea while you were talking, and I want to run it by you. I just thought of it right now. But there are a lot of people wonder, one, am I skilled enough to get fit? Some people are, and some people aren't. You won't know until you watch them hit, right? Now, there are some people.
Question.
What's that?
It's a great question.
It is a great question, and I think it's a lot harder to answer that question. I think it's independent.
I got some answers for it, but go ahead.
What do you think?
I think that, some guys are terrible. Okay, but I'll give you my cousin or my nephew. I'm sorry, my brother's kids. Troy and Logan. Logan's terrible at golf. Okay, and I love the kid.
How old?
He's 15. He's playing high school golf. He made the team because he told him his name. Yeah. And so the coach at Santa Barbara's like, "We'll take you." But I'm starting to work with him. He could be good. Like I'm not clowning him.
Right.
I love him.
No. It is. No one starts off good.
But the fact is, he started like a year and a half ago. Really didn't take it serious, and now he's starting to take it serious. But he's got the worst clubs I've ever seen. And I told his dad, I said, "Come on, bro, get him some clubs." Yeah. Like these things are terrible. Like I don't even know. They're from like old Kmart. If you look at it, they're 30 years old. They're so bad. He could afford to get better clubs because they're weighted wrong. The shafts are terrible. They're all flexy. Right. But when I see a kid with somewhat like 10-year-old clubs that tailor-made or ping or something, those things can still be hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's stuff to be learned with them, that's for sure.
100%. So I'm going to work on their golf swing first. And then when they start getting good enough to get a motion, to get good enough contact, and I can do that with Logan's clubs where his clubs are shitty. But the fact is he'd be way better off if he had a set that matched. Like he's got 3 clubs that don't even match his set. Like I don't even know the brand of his club, but he's got one other TaylorMade. He's got like a Srixon club, and like he's got like all of his clubs are just not matched up. Well, so yes, he should be fit. And the kids that I work with that are really start getting good, they need to get fit for sure.
When I see a person who's swung enough to where they can hit the middle of the face every once in a while, and they hit the middle of the face, how'd that feel? They go, dude, that felt good. And the ball's way offline.
They deserve clubs.
That makes me think that there's probably something about that club that could have sent that ball straighter. Sure, he still might have too strong of a grip, might be turning it down too much, and that's part of it. But we know that making a giant swing change is going to take time. It's going to take reps. You're going to have to get a little worse before you get better. And I don't think if you haven't dedicated your life to golf, sometimes you don't need to change your swing 90%. What if a club could do 20% of it and then the rest of the 70% is more swing change? Just you don't have to go under the knife as deep sometimes. There may be something that says, hey, look, I got to make a swing change. I know that.
I've got kids all the time that I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it on video and
It looks good.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
And I'm very rarely like puzzled with like a ball flight. I can see it. I got TrackMan, I got Flight Scope, I got all the tools. I'm not getting fooled. And I can see a ball hooking, and I'm like, dude, your clubs are you need to get them flat.
Yep.
I'll go over and look at it, and they're 2 degrees upright, and I'm like, dude, I get them 2 degrees flat, they're striping, and I'm like, there you go.
So the problem is if they don't have a coach like you watching who knows what's going on,
they'll figure it out another way.
that's the problem.
They'll aim right, or they'll get their hand more forward, or weaken the grip.
We're after a result. We'll do anything to get a result. And you could actually make your swing worse to get that result. A lot of times that's
But your ball flight could be better.
But your ball flight will be better to the target. But like you said, it's how consistent can we make that motion?
You got a guy hooking it, and they should just flatten their lies, and they start getting a weaker grip, and all of a sudden it doesn't hook, and then they start adding loft because it's going right, and all of a sudden, it's not going as far, but it's going straighter. So now all of a sudden you messed it up.
You just put your glass ceiling and you made it lower. You got a little bit better, but now you can't advance more, and then
now you have to go back and de-loft it again, and then get your clubs fit after. You just screwed yourself.
It's an ugly, crazy game.
Yeah.
So now that you've had your first child, and obviously golf's going to be in their life for their entire life, when you have him have his first little 7-iron, what would you make it on the upright side of things or the flat side of things for his first club?
First off, I'd just send him to you, and you tell me, because I wouldn't be the one. First off, I can tell arm length. I can tell clubs are too long or too short, and then the lies got to be off or on. So I'll be able to tell if the club's too long or too heavy right away. But the lies and what it should be set, I'll leave that up to you.
So I made a video the other day. We're just pretend that you had twins, identical twins. If we gave one of your sons an upright golf club to start when they were age 3, and then we gave the other kid a flat club, and their only instructions were just hit balls for the next couple of years, how different do you think their swings would look if their balls both were ending up on target?
I just think the guy with the upright shaft is going to be more in to out. He's going to be trying to draw. It's going to hook. So they're going to be either more in to out for sure. Okay. And I think the guy with the flatter is going to be straight to, if they're cutting it, I just think that it'll be a lot easier. I don't think they'll have to be in to out. And I just think a lot of juniors are fit standard.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
of course.
And they should be flatter. In Hogan was what
He was
7,
pretty flat.
6, 7.
Hogan's pretty flat. That's right. He was a shorter guy, shorter clubs, and he played his clubs very flat.
You remember when you set mine too flat? I said I don't want to hook them anymore.
Yes.
And I came in and I'm like, bro, you need to change them back. And I'm like, what were they? Were like 5 degrees flat?
Yeah.
But so I hit a draw and you put them at 5 degrees flat, but I didn't know. And I'm starting it out to the right and it's
Not
just staying
coming back.
right and it's not coming back, and got myself in some trouble at Sadakoy. And I think that's people don't realize how important that is. If you're hooking it or you're slicing it too much, you could change that. A slicer could afford to be more on the upright side for sure, and
Absolutely.
it helped.
Well, Tiger talked about when he decided he was going to make a swing change, whether it was Foley or Haney, whoever, that he would make lie angle adjustments based upon the kind of the change he wanted his body to do. I thought that to be super interesting because inherently they go hand in hand together. The club kind of promotes or creates some of the motion.
100%.
So
I mean, I'll get into a club. I had a club. Leo had his club. I don't know what he had it. What did you put it at? 4 degrees flat or 5 or 7 degrees flat?
I know he's flat and his shaft is stiff.
Okay, so I was drawing my irons, and I got his, and it started to cut a little bit, but it was pretty good, and it made me want to swing a little more into out to hit a draw.
Yes.
And I was just hitting it dead straight. Put back to my club, and I started hooking it. I was playing a little slinger. So it was funny that I was like, dude, I managed to recorrect after I started cutting a little bit to get more into out with his, and it felt really good. And then I went back to mine. I was like, shit, I'm drawing this too much. Yep. And so I had to start rotating more, swinging more left, and just shows you how important they are. If people don't know how to adjust to those sometimes too.
I know.
And a person who's overcutting it might start swinging more left to make it go more left and probably make it worse.
That's a skilled golfer will correct the correct way probably faster. But that's the thing. I'm not sitting. So people go, dude, is 3 shots enough to test that variable? It's like, shit, I'm not here to watch you adjust and hit the 5th one great. I'm looking at the first one actually, because when you're in the middle of the fairway on hole 18 and all you got to do is hit the middle of the green and 2-putt to win your first tournament, dude, what swing are you going to put on it? What club do you want back? There's no adjustment to make. I need to hit this shot now. And I need to have a club that's been tested over and over and over that says, hey, man, this is your best chance to win this tournament. Trust yourself. Do your routine. Swing it, execute it, and go win. Not like I need my third shot so it doesn't hook on me.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I've noticed with the clubs you fit me for. I think for me, when I'm playing good, I'm starting it out of, a mid-flight, more right window.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I would hit it pretty straight and baby draw overhook.
Yep.
But when I feel like I overhook it, I look up and it's still starting right. It's amazing.
That's the definition of forgiveness.
It's the definition
when
of forgiveness.
you think that it's bad and you look up and you go, dude, that's not that bad.
And sometimes when I'm actually trying to hit a draw and it starts out right and it draws in good. And sometimes when I feel like I pull it, it just stays straight. I'm like, it's like cheating.
So what we need to do is for the people, some people are doing our remote fittings. We get the data back. We look at the strike locations. And, Forward Golf's not here to sell stuff to people. We're here to coach you. We'll be with you the whole way. There's going to be no man left behind. If you're getting no tiger strikes and we tested all the variables in the golf club, what does that really mean? It means you probably need some work on your swing. You think? So I think it would be cool if we, or like on your membership site, we created almost like this tiger strike plan where it's just a small series that's surrounding getting good contact. To where it's like, hey, look, dude, you couldn't go through the remote fitting. We couldn't get the data, dude. It didn't work. Why don't you sign up for this small program to get some better phase contact? George will guide you through that so that we can resend him the case at a later date and get him through it. You know what I mean? Like, they paid for our services. It just didn't work out. But like, there needs to be this kind of prerequisite for the people who are like, hey, man, I didn't have my best stuff. I tried it a couple times. I need some help. And it's like, well, here is a plan that should help get you a more centered strike location so that you can go through this process and keep the journey going. That'd be dope.
I would be really cool. I think that would be a great idea. And I think that, I don't know. I feel like I've never hit club. And I'm not just saying that, but I've never hit clubs that are more forgiving than those Forward clubs, being honest.
Well,
I haven't.
I'm more than stoked to hear it, dude. And, I think that there's some validity for, you guys to sign up for the remote fitting.
I think Charlie should be hitting them.
Well, dude, we're going to try our best to get Charlie in there, dude. Charlie's a little bit more into the specs than I thought he was when we first started talking. He said he was not into it. Now he's removing just a couple
starting to like him a little bit more.
Grams there.
Just had to play in the wind today, and
That's true.
He knew that those Forward were for real.
Hey, man, I if I'm going to do something, I want to do it well. I want to do golf justice. I think golf has been done dirty for a long time. I think that there's a lot of people out there trying to sell stuff to people, trying to sell a good game when inherently we want good tools. We need good instruction. But at the end of the day, we need to get you guys to practice, devise a plan to where, you guys can continue to get the most out of your game. Because that's the hardest thing to do is to get the most out of your game. George, I really appreciate you coming on today's show. You guys, if you're not on the George Gankas membership site, I highly recommend you guys sign up. It's just a tutorial. Make sure that your setup's good. Make sure that your clubs are long enough to support your setup. I mean, anything in there is in there. It's like the encyclopedia of golf. If you guys haven't checked it out, you're doing yourself a disservice by not. George.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you,
Yeah,
Chad.
bro. I mean,
I had
I'm
a
on
great
it.
time.
I'm on it all the time, bro. Dude, we're never done. This job's never done. Dude, my swing gets dumped under, and then I'm over, and then I'm under, and I play golf for good weeks in between.
I just don't understand how people wouldn't get the membership. Some of the top instructors in the world to have my membership.
I'm sure.
I mean, and I'm talking about some of the best in the world.
Well, I don't know why they wouldn't be. Some of the best information that's out there to offer in golf is in that space. So
I mean, and you've got two coaches on there that are great, Brett and Jake, and it's like honestly, if you look at the price of it, what is it, $50 a month, somewhere around there, and you get basically free lessons that come with it,
nonstop
every week, and you get the course. It's like, okay, you get 4 lessons a month for basically the same price, 50 for everything. And it's a no-brainer working with those guys.
That's what I want to do. I want to create a movement where the clubs are being handled, the coaching's being handled, everyone's got their plan, stats are being taken, games are being made, tournaments are being thrown, and together as a family, dude, we can fucking all get better at golf. I mean, that's what I want. and, you know, aligning myself with people like you. You know, I started following you a long time ago. I knew right away that you were laying down stuff that I had never heard in my golf swing. If anything, the stuff that I learned from you upset me that my mom paid for instruction off of some guy who didn't know what he was talking about. Years ago, I look back and go, why was I working on all this stuff? All this stuff I worked on is the stuff I basically got to change now. And
your swing's pretty pure too.
But I had to work on it. Yeah. I had to work on it hard, dude. I wasn't shallow. Dude, I would go to Satakoy Regional and I'd videotape myself, and dude, my hips would be dead square at impact. No, my shoulders and my hips, it looked like I was at address. You couldn't tell if I was at address or if I was at impact, but I didn't know anything about the golf swing. So I would look on my face I'd have no forward shaft lean. So then I would do nothing to my swing other than try to lean it. Then I'd shank it. Oh, fuck. I'm leaning it, but now I'm shanking it. Then I tried to like lean it and flip it, and it's like, whew. And I'm like, dude, I need some guidance because I'm just trying random stuff, and I seem to only hit it good when I try nothing, but it's going high and short.
And you ain't short.
And I started dipping around on Instagram and stuff, and then I heard, you know, kind of stuff about a pivot and a shallowing club, and I'm looking at mine going, well, I'm not shallow. I know I'm not that. And then I realized the biggest thing that changed me is you were like, dude, if your club face is wide open at the top of your swing and you don't flex it down, you're going to stall and you're going to throw. So I just strengthened the hell out of my grip, and I sat on the range because you were basically, look, if your club comes in shut, the only way you're going to not hook it is to lean it. And I'm like, that's what I need to do. I strengthened my grip. I've been a strong grip player ever since. And I've just forced my club to be shut.
I think that's the coolest thing ever. I think that's one thing that people go, oh, I just teach flexion, and I laugh. And I'm like, dude, I got so many guys with strong grips that get the face in the same place. Wolf has probably one of the weakest grips on the planet, and he flexes the shit out of it on the downswing. As long as your face gets pretty square around P6, and you learn to rotate and get the shaft in the right position impact, you're fine with any grip.
It'll all take care of itself.
You can have a really strong grip, you can have a really weak grip, but if you can match it up properly, you can be successful.
And that's what we're here to do. We're here to match you guys up from club to grip to technique through your pivot. That's all this game is. If you can match it up, keep your stats, practice what you need to, you can play your best golf. Until next time, guys, we're out of here.
Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, George. You're the man.
You're the man.
Money, perfect.